Examination day.
Where's your father? The thin-lipped woman broke the tension of David's world. David Saze was alone in the crowded hall, both sides of his seat empty. Actually, when David looked around the room, everyone was alone in their own bubble of air. One father was staring at his daughter. That daughter was captivated by her new shoes. The boy next to the new shoes girl was biting his nails, definitely not listening to his father lecturing him about something he wanted the boy to know. Were they tips on how to get good marks? Nearest to David were another set of father and son. The blonde kid was reading the paper writing examination at Government Educational Building Room 404, stuck on the faint blue door. The father ruffled the blonde hair that was the same color as his and called out, "Dick, I need to tell you something." He kneeled down, face to face with the boy named Dick. Mumbled so subtly David saw his lips move, but the boy couldn't hear. "My boy," I asked, "where's your father?" This time the woman shoved a paper in front of David's eyes, rather irritating. "Sorry, madam. I must have been a bit nervous. He wasn't. I'm Saze, David Saze. Neither of my parents were able to make it today. Business, but they've done this 2 times before me with my brothers. So they called the governor, and I think it worked out." Thin lips had turned into a pretentious mask. Honey licked voice. "Oh, you're the Saze? Then no need for these papers. I wish you luck. You'll need it." You were disgusted to see the woman turn back and hand the paper to the father of a blond boy with a smile of hypocrisy. The father filled out the form, submitted it to the clerk, and went back to sit next to his son. "It won't be long now. When they call your name, you will go through the doorway at the end of the room." The man, Dick's father's hand, pointed to bluish-gray portal, then came back to rest upon his son's hand. At 5 minutes of 11, the name Dick Jordan was called and the blond kid stood up. David heard the blond man wish, "Good luck, son." No one noticed, but David stood up. "I'll call for you when the test is over." David had to leave the spotlight then for some reason. He did not turn back. He did not look up to the families, up to the fathers and sons. All out of the room 404, David confronted an obstacle. The man at the front desk had blocked his way. "You are. Let me look at the list. Taze? Oh, David Taze. Do you need anything?" A scent of suspicion was definite in the question, but named Taze roused a lonesome disdain. David remembered the power in that name. His name was commonsensical. How many times had he read it mentioned on the cover of economic magazines, see signs in the streets of the company's name? Saze was worth something. "Bathroom, where is it?" Downright commanding, but the man accepted. "Down the hall to the left." around the corner. David did not thank the man nor even listen. He strode along the hall, with each step creating new thoughts. First, why couldn't his father be here? Second, what was with this exam that every other father came to? Third, what was wrong with this family Saze? Fourth, was this what his brother Tate felt 3 years ago on his day of the examination? Fifth, well then, this was enough to make the cleverest, most tolerant, most benevolent person David knew a runaway boy. But the sixth step didn't come. David had to stop just around the corner. Urgent voices materialized, annoyed, stifling complaints of two. Really? I don't see why my invention has to be used this way. What? Making those 12 years olds tell the truth? By that age, they should reply truthfully without the drinks and this tension of the building. No need to make sure by drinks, I mean. Yes, that and the whole system is just absurd. Shh. David frowned. Curiosity and puzzlement aroused in his face. By now he had to lean close to the wall, all his thoughts erased, focusing only on that conversation. Hush down. I know what you mean. I feel guilty in the current system too. Look at those kids, just 12 years old, my granddaughter's age, and if they're too smart, just because of that, too smart, they're executed. David couldn't process the statement. Too smart? I know, it wasn't this tough during the initial stages. Do you know how they inform the parents? Cousin of mine picked up the phone for his grandson's information. They told my cousin who they were, didn't even check if the person on the line was the boy's parents, and said they regret to inform them that his grandson's intelligence quotient exceeded the government regulation, so they killed him. Regret. You see any regret on those attendants? It's us, scientists, feeling guilt and condemnation. I told you to hush down. You're getting too high there, pal. Let's get back to work. Alright, but really asking if you want to specify by phone number whether you want your grandson's body to be entered for $10 by the organization who killed them is. The voices muffled away with footsteps, but the words remained. Too smart? Intelligence quotient? Government regulations? Execution? $10? David's head was spinning around. He was getting to something, and he got there. But he was scared. His body was shaking. Lashes trembled. Lips dried. He found out something he wasn't supposed to know, didn't want to know, and he was in the middle of it. But was he to do even after he found out the truth? Instinctively, David knew no one must find out. He knew what was going on inside those doors. He stumbled trying to ignore the terror. David was on the way back to room 404. It was the only place in this hideous building he knew, a place to sit down. He thought to himself, how much can a 12-year-old conceal? Was he acting strange? Were his eyes swaying? It felt like someone could look into his eyes and shout the truth out of him. Unconsciously, David hunched. Only when David sat down on the bench again he looked up from the ground. It was 15 minutes of 11. 10 minutes had passed, and the blonde father was gone. Strained, David pulled together the verity he got. Children of his country took the government lead examination at the age of 11 if one's intelligence was over the government regulation. No dare to think more, David thought about lying about his answers. No, the truth drink mentioned by the scientist impeded the idea. The truth-telling drink, ridiculous as it sounded, was plausible. There it was, a government killing smart children, so why couldn't drinks force the truth out? Conclusion. Were there any way to escape? This was the fourth floor. He did not know any if there was any staircase. No, even if he knew, the staircase would be the first place people would search. An automatic elevator was what brought everyone up to room 404. David tried to remember the marble floored, pillared lobby and archways before the elevator. The loudspeaker hissed. David Saze. Once again, David Saze, please enter. David started and reluctantly stood up. There was no way to resist. David walked to the door, thinking of the possibility of himself going back home safe. Jack, David's other elder brother, came back after his exam. David encouraged himself he might not be even smart enough. Sanity had escaped from David, feeling the coldness of the steel knob. A face came up to David's mind. Tate has turned the same knob he was holding right now, but Tate hadn't come back. Unlike Jack, Tate had been murdered. Must have been. Tate was always too smart. He was dead. Absently, David let go of the knob and stepped in. That dimness of the room made David barely sense the gray tunicked attendant. Sit down, David. David Saze, am I right? Classification number 611-8. Drink this, David. David stared at the plastic cup the attendant was handing. T was dead. Dead. T wasn't a runaway boy or anything like that. Simply dead. Not here anymore. Death. Other kids were dead. In a flash came an image of himself being burned down. Now he was dead. No. David suddenly felt the urge to live. He needed to live. He just couldn't die. Why did he need to die? It's alright. No need to be nervous. Take the cup. No, he wouldn't, but David did, which gave the attendant satisfaction. Again, why did he need to die? This man was perfectly alive. Why did he need to die? Die like all the others who had before him? Why? David took a deep breath. There was no reason for him to die. The moment the attendant took his eyes off of David, David splattered the liquor in his attendant's eyes. And before the man could scream, he took a clubbard from the man's lap. Bang! Smashed it on the man's head. From then it was a run. David shot out of the room, and out of room 404, people whispered and fumbled at the sight. Nothing mattered. Red lights appeared, machines whirled, and footsteps echoed along the hallway. The echo rebounded and came back to its origin, accompanying more footsteps. Code 11, an examinee has absconded. Stand by your positions. Block all paths. Get him! The grey governmental building was behind him. David camouflaged himself in the crowd. He still wasn't safe, and he knew it. His face could be uploaded in the bus stations and on the screens in the streets, and the whole city would be after him. David ran back home. Where else could he go to? He kept on running non-stop. By the time David saw his house, the sun was setting from the back of the house. It looked as if the house was shining, blinding him. David made a shade with his hands, slowly restraining his pace. Soon he was walking. He stopped in front of their resplendent gates. Nothing was there anymore but the mansion, vacant, tapes of government property. Alive, but the things that had made him alive till now were alive no longer. Alone again, David turned back. The sun created a long distance of shadow. He walked away, the shadow with him. He might not be as alone as he thought.